Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining today's Partner Solutions session. Before we get started, I just want to share a couple of housekeeping items. So this is an express session. It lasts only about 20 minutes. We're hoping to save the last 5 minutes for Q&A. All attendees will be muted throughout the session, so please use the chat if you have any comments or questions for the speakers. We'll take as many of those questions from the chat as we can. This session will also be recorded and available tomorrow on the event site and through October 15th. So please feel free to share with your colleagues who may not have been able to attend. Today, I am thrilled. We're joined by Amy Donahoe from the Greater Springfield Partnership and Armando Garza with YouScience. So I am going to hand it over to Amy to get started. Thank you both for joining us.
Alicia, thank you so much for having us today. As she said, I'm Amy with the Greater Springfield Partnership. I've been with the partnership for 13 years and really working in workforce and economic development. Workforce, as we all know, is a very strong driver for anything that we're doing in the chamber field as we talk with our employers. And we have to make sure that we understand how to navigate that. And now post-COVID, it's only getting to be a bigger problem. And we want to make sure that, again, we're communicating and understanding what our talent looks like and how to streamline our talent for the employers in our communities. And so Springfield, as you can see from the map, we're located between two much larger cities, Dayton and Columbus, and not far from Cincinnati. So you can imagine that a lot of our talent is actually going outward. We know that 56% of our working population, which is about 30,000 workers, are actually working outside of our community. So we're really working hard to bring those in because we have 8 different school districts, and that actually represents 14 different high schools. So from before COVID until now, we're really needing to make sure that we connect with them and keep that talent local. And I'm sure many of you feel the same as well. So I'll be honest, 2 years ago, I was at a conference in Long Beach. It was ACCE, and I was with many of my education and talent fellows from cohort number 3. And they wanted to go check out after we had dinner to talk with YouScience and to talk with Armando. And I thought to myself, why are we going to do this? We're supposed to be having dinner and going out for a drink. But we went, and I was reluctant. I'd heard every other possible talent and assessment that we had been out there, but I hadn't heard about YouScience. And once I sat down and really listened, I became a little bit interested, and then more interested, and to the point that I'm still having a conversation and they're ready to go. And then I poked holes in it, or at least tried to, for multiple months after that. And from there, I decided to take it myself. And then I had my middle school student and my high school student take the assessment. And I'm telling you, we had to introduce it to our community, because if you are losing your K-12 talent after they graduate, if you're not knowing where they go, then this is definitely something that you need to look into as a community. In order for the employers and the educators to speak, we need to be that hub to connect them. And honestly, we've identified YouScience as the best platform to uncover and align local talent with educational pathways and industry partners. And I'm going to turn it over to Armando, because he's going to be able to show you a little bit of information about how that is happening.
Thanks, Amy. Good afternoon, everybody, or good morning, depending on where you're calling in from. Real quick, I want to share with you an overview of what YouScience has built. This is the journey, as we call it, for the user or the student, and it's part of the different tools available on our platform. And so, as Amy mentioned on the far left, we have these aptitude-based discovery tools to uncover individual talents and then align that talent to pathways or education programs and ultimately careers for which they have natural abilities to be competitive and succeed. We've created academic insights and advising tools so that counselors and CT directors can get the right students into the right programs. We have a host of industry recognized certifications, and then at the end, you'll see that it oscillates between helping post-secondary do a better job of recruiting the right students into the right majors, or, as I'll share with you today, connecting talent directly into the talent marketplace, or to you or to your employers. So part of the frustration, as Amy mentioned, is when working with employers, they mention students not being engaged or them not having a connection to the school. And when you talk with the schools, right, their students are saying, I don't really know what happens in a career or why I'm taking a particular course. For example, geometry. What does that do for me in my later life? And so in the midst of all this kind of chaos and confusion, schools are required to do a career guidance tool. And the predominant tool being used is an interest survey. And I'm going to show you some information here in a few seconds that actually suggests that these simple interest surveys, whether it's in workforce development or in K-12, even in post-secondary, are actually harmful to not only young women, but young minorities and students from urban or rural populations. So what we did is we actually took aptitude exercises traditionally given by paper and pencil, and we digitized them. We took 100 years worth of knowledge and history, and we're the first company to then make those available in an online environment. The second thing we did is working with the group of psychometricians that created the ONET abilities profiler, we mapped aptitudes to abilities and directly to those abilities needed by a career. And I'll go into that in a little bit here, but what I want to show you is a quick 2 slides on some of the data. So this is 100,000 users. What this symbolizes or what this shows is if I take these 100,000 students in this case, and I stack rank the career recommendations that they're being given based on just a simple interest survey or on an aptitude basis. So the orange bar says that if I take the top 50 most frequent career recommendations, 40 of those 50 or 80% are basically telling students go into careers in arts and entertainment, teaching, social work, or psychology. Interesting side note, psychology is the #2 most frequent four-year major right now in the US. Zero in that top 50 are actually in those careers on the right-hand side. High demand careers, architecture, engineering, construction, IT, transportation, logistics, and manufacturing. Now, the good news is if we take the same student population and do the same analysis, but doing it based on their aptitudes or where they have natural ability, what we find is that over half of those top 50 careers pop up on those high demand sides. One of the one of the higher education executives here in Tennessee actually saw some of this data and said one time that if we don't use aptitudes, we're better off doing nothing because we're actually steering our students into economic abyss. Looking at the same data a little bit differently, what we did here is we pulled out 4 industries on the right-hand side of the page and 38 careers that represent those. Up top in teal, you'll see that only 22% of the young women had a high interest fit for one of those 38 careers. Yet below that, you'll see that 78% had the aptitude or natural ability to do those. And down at the bottom, you'll see 78% of African American students in blue, 79% of Hispanic in green, and 79% of other in dark gray. So the other big, aha in our data is that talent cuts equally across both race and gender. But we know there's this gap, and the gap exists for 2 reasons. Your interests change over time, and they're a function of either exposure or, more importantly, belief. Do you believe that you can actually do that work? And that's where YouScience comes in. It starts with the affirmation language that you can actually succeed in these jobs for which you have given ability. And so the way it works is you'll see a game here on the left-hand side of the screen. This is a paper folding exercise. We give you a digital piece of paper. We're going to ask you to fold it a couple times, punch a hole in it, unpack it in your mind, and tell us which one of these it is. The second one, as you'll see here, is, and it's B, by the way, for those of you playing along at home. The second one is we're going to give you 6 objects and ask you to tell us which 3 have something in common. And being high or low in a given ability isn't necessarily good or bad. It's how we're wired. And so I'm going to show you real quick what this looks like for the student. The student can come in and they can see then visually how their abilities rank or stack up relative to themselves by the size of these pie pieces. You'll see that Jess here crushed it. Every student crushes it, or every user crushes it. That's part of the affirmative feedback. And the student can go in here and go more and learn more about each of their individual abilities and how it helps them at work, school, socially, etc. The other thing we do is we give the user a personalized language to describe their abilities as well as how they work best on a team. But one of the most important pieces in here is that we show the user how their abilities fit not only by their interests, as you'll see for this young lady, more around teaching and counseling, yet she has the aptitude or natural ability to do web development or be in manufacturing or engineering. And so along those same lines, we've built out this portal that allows students or users to see their certifications they've earned and then the relativeness of the career for that certification. And then finally, the last piece in here that I want to show you is this is where we can connect local employers into the system and showcase then students how they match to those employers. And so here, a student can click by certifications. And so you'll notice that she earned that digital media certification. She also has welding, and those are certifications being looked for by these companies. Or she can look at her aptitudes, and you'll start to see these more manufacturing related careers versus when she clicks on her interests, and it gives her more of those schools. So that's how the tool works. I won't go into much detail here, but know that what we do is we work with chambers to connect then education and industry. And then the last piece we do is because we have the data on student abilities or user abilities, we can actually create a more holistic talent pipeline. So think of the front side of the talent where we know the raw talent. So for example, and this was for a partnership we did in Phoenix for IT students. Blue indicates the percentage of those students that have the high aptitude to do this work for males. You'll see we have more for females. And then in manufacturing, you'll see similarly. And we can also break it out by ethnicity and gender. So with that, Amy, if you would like to kind of give us some conclusions and takeaways.
Sorry, I was muted. So basically, I'm sure you're looking at all this and saying, okay, I see how it applies in the schools, but where does the chamber fit in? And I'll tell you, the chamber in our community, we've been the one to take the two standalone silos, your employers and your educators, and we've talked to them separately and tried to merge those two silos so that they have to connect. The students are our future, and we have to make sure that we are gearing these students toward those in-demand careers that Armando spoke of earlier. And a lot of times the schools they don't know. They just want the students to be happy and they graduate and move on, but there's so much more to it than that. So with what we've decided to do here is we had a capital campaign through our economic development group, and it was very much focused on workforce, and part of workforce is the entire pipeline. And so what we did was we went into the schools and told them we would like to fund for each of your schools to receive the reporting that's available to the counselors in the schools. What they had to do was buy into deciding we're going to give this to our students. And if they signed up to give it to their students, there's actually no charge for the students to take it. It's just the little bit of fee on the side of the reporting. And again, we covered that for them. So we took away that barrier for them. And then we really focused on in-demand jobs and educating the schools with that and meeting with them. And then we've even partnered with our local community college here, and they're using it to some degree. And as students come out of high schools or they're taking some of the CCP classes, it's all linking together. On the employer side of it, we did want to make sure that they understood what the students were taking. So we opened it up to them. I've allowed many of our employers, either themselves or those who have students as a middle school or high school student, I said, let your student take it, see what it's about. Because I think that really is what opens your eyes when you for me, especially when I took off my work hat and put on my parent hat, I saw such opportunity and how we could really use it and really engage our parents, which is a really big missing piece in our education community. And then what we did was started to roll this out here recently at the very end of Armando's presentation on how the employers can engage, because right now employers are wanting to find new and exciting opportunities on ways to connect with the future workforce or the current workforce. And this is something different, something again the chamber can offer them, to do that. So we've really been the hub for that, the chamber has, and we'll continue to do that. Our verbiage on everything we speak about, it's changed. We were talking about our career clusters. When we work with our 8th graders, we were talking about the career clusters and the areas that they could really, learn about, and then focusing more on the in-demand job opportunities in our region. And we really do see this as a huge change agent for us. We're excited about it. I'm not on the YouScience staff, so I will tell you, I'm here because I believe in it, and I think it's something that's really going to change the future of our community.
Thank
Thanks,
you
Amy.
so much,
Oh.
Amy. Oh, I was just going to say, yes, we have some wonderful questions popping up in the Q&A, Armando.
Yeah, I was going to say, yes, adults of any age as well as students can take this. We start as early as 6th grade, and we've had an 84-year young woman take it looking for her encore career. The cost is now for our basic package, it's $2,500 a school. There's a small school size, but that's kind of the average school size. There's discounts for districts, and then that comes with the analytics that Amy talked about. The school can pay, so there's a couple different ways to get it, as Amy mentioned. They got funding through economic development. The Daytona Chamber, Ken, for those who know him, he got grant monies to fund it. When Nashville started it here, they made a district deal with the district. They paid the first year. Them and the district went in 50-50 in year 2, and then in year 3, the district picked it up. And then in Alabama, if you talk with Donnie out in West Alabama, he got the AGC to come in and pay for it for kind of the Tuscaloosa city and county schools. So hopefully that helps. Yes, individuals can take it. We sell it online for $29, and then the user gets to keep their access for 10 years. But my contact information should be, I believe, in the bio areas. You could also go to youscience.com, and there's a contact us section. And then we've got, folks across the U.S. that can connect you.
Email on it,
Oh,
Armando.
does it? That's right. Thank you. Good call, Amy. Good work. Teamwork makes the dream work. Other questions?
I will throw out too is, if you decide to do this as a chamber and you're speaking with some of the schools, if the schools don't hop on immediately, that's normal. We have schools at all different times and places and thoughts, and we had a couple that said, oh my gosh, this is exactly what we needed, and they hopped on very quickly. We have others that are still lagging and saying, I don't know, and they're dragging their heels. We have to meet them where they are. We're working truly with 9 different superintendents in 14 different districts. So it takes time. It takes time getting through the superintendents and getting through the counselors and the teachers. It just takes somebody that's going to believe in what you're doing and has a passion for seeing the outcomes of their students.
Wonderful. Well, wow, I think you got through all of the questions in the chat. And for everyone who has joined us, you see Armando and Amy's email addresses. Thank you, Amy and Armando, for sharing your time and your experience with all of us today. And thank you for all of the attendees who joined us. Again, this session was recorded. It will be available on the event site tomorrow and through October 15th. Feel free to share with your colleagues. And we encourage you to visit YouScience's virtual booth and their profile page for more information. Just a friendly reminder, the next Partner Solutions track begins at 2 p.m. Eastern. So we look forward to seeing you all there. Armando, we have about 30 seconds, so I'll turn it to you for a final quick word.
Yeah, the last question I saw, have individual businesses sponsored the program? And the answer is yes. That's how we've gotten started in many states. We're across all 50 states in the US and I think 20 countries now outside of the US. So there's a great likelihood that YouScience is around where you are at.
Wonderful. Thank you all. We'll see you on the next session.